What are oarsducks, you ask? Oarsducks. Ducks in oarsducks. Ducks in a row. Could they be? Why not? Why shouldn't they be? So, why the silly title? Well, sometimes it's important to get your ducks in a row. You know, oarsducks. For those of you who've never rowed before, the stick with the spoon-looking end, or the hatchet-looking thing at the end, as they are, since already a good 25, 30 years. It's called an oar. That thing that people in a boat row with, it's called an oar, in case you don't know that. I guess most of you probably do. And the people that row those boats are called oarsmen or oarswomen. It is one of the oldest, most well-traditioned things people have done in human civilization ever since boats were invented and people needed a way to get around in their little boats. They had to invent an oar before sails even. Why? Because sails were discovered as a way to move the boat easily sometime after the original boats would have been invented. The evidence of that is, well established through archaeology of the oldest boats known. And even the oldest sailing boats had oars on them, because if there wasn't wind, you would need oars to get around. And very often, even if there was wind and you were sailing, you would still need the oars to get around. Why am I mentioning oars and ducks and boats and sailing boats and rowboats when I'm walking by a field with frogs? Well, boats have a way of moving through fluid liquidity, water, as it were. And that way is through the energy that powers the motion of the boats. Whether that power is wind energy or oar energy, an energy from humans pulling on oars, or whether it's motorized with an engine of some type, or a motor of some type, electric or otherwise. Fuel being the most common, obviously, or nuclear for huge boats like, carriers, etc. But why does this matter? It matters because fluid dynamics are a very interesting thing that have been used for all kinds of other things in life, including, as you might know, in the world of trading. People use fluid dynamics to try to predict the movement of an asset. Because after all, an asset moves its price based on the volatility and the entropy and the probability and the statistics. The depths, as it were. And as traders, ours is to fill the little buckets with liquidity taken from the stream of liquidity, which is the market of an asset, where the liquidity or the liquid is literally money. Why does that matter? Well, just like in rowing, if you try to take a huge bucket out of a liquid stream, or if you try to take an enormous stroke that's too big and inefficient, you are likely to get slippage, meaning you're likely to lose some of the returns, in other words, some of the profitability or the gain of that move, because you're moving too much water at once. It's going to spill away from your oar. It's going to move away from your oar inefficiently, and you're going to lose some of the power advantage of the stroke you took. Just like if you try to take out a big bucket of liquidity from the liquid stream, inevitably some of it is going to slip out in what is known as slippage. That's when the price slips away from where you were at the time of your order to close the position, and therefore your profit will be slightly eaten away by that slippage. What does that mean? It means that you will be more efficient in trading anyway, taking out little buckets of liquidity rather than big ones. Can you also be slightly larger buckets that are not very large? Yes, of course you can. You can optimize your position size and your position in the order book, which is largely based on your position size. So, keep in mind, the largest orders get priority, meaning people moving very big bags or very big buckets get the priority of having the orders filled first. And the smallest buckets are last in line. Nevertheless, if you have a relatively small bucket, you can still optimize your take profit by using things like limit orders so that you don't suffer from slippage. And only if the price starts to run away from you in the direction you don't want should you execute a market order to close the position. The reason you should use a market order if it starts running away from you, the only sane reason, is because if you don't, it might eat all of your profits or even lead you into a negative position. And a market order, as you should know if you trade, is immediately filled, which means the moment you execute it, the exchange will honor the order at the price that you set. As long as that order is where the price is at when you execute it. And since market orders typically make the price where it is automatically, they will just honor that price. Whereas a limit order will be filled when the order book reaches your order. So it might move even significantly before it gets to your order. So there's the risk of using the limit order versus a market order. However, with a market order, you pay a fee, which means you have to make sure that you are not waiting too long to run your market order, that your profits are at zero or worse so that you don't take a loss. But if you are at a loss, it is the absolute minimum so that you don't lose your money. Alright, that's all I'll say about that for now. Happy trading.